Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, Nelson Mandela, leaders synonymous with civil rights movements around the world. In the 1970s, Judy Heumann, Ed Roberts, and other activists started a movement that swept the country. No longer willing to accept the status quo, they fought the United States government for the rights of people with disabilities and won. In her memoir, Judy Heumann, the only daughter of German Jewish immigrants, recounts life growing up in Brooklyn, the monumental 504 sit-in at the San Francisco Federal Building, and her illustrious disability activism career, affecting change around the world. Welcome to Behind the Book with 360 with Judy Heumann and our co-author, Kristen Joyner.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 4, part 2 of Behind the Book with Ability360, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Casey Kaler, and I am joined here by a few of my colleagues from Ability360. Today, we'll be talking with Judy Heumann and Kristen Joyner about Joseph Califano and the role he played in the Section 504 protests.
Califano knew what was going on, and I think it was a real issue of power dynamics. And, to this day, after the demonstrations, after the activities in Washington, D.C., after he signed the regulations, Senator Kristen called him. He was the senior senator in California, and asked him to meet with us. And he didn't. And so I can only speculate. People say that the reason why he didn't meet with us is because we had demonstrations outside of his house. That may be true, but quite frankly, I think that's ridiculous because in some way, I thought it was pretty innovative and creative that we did have the chutzpah to go to his house. And of course, one thing that was very funny is it turned out, so Kitty Cohen came from a family that had money. And it turned out that one of her relatives lived on that block. And she hid in the truck that we were in for a while because she didn't want them to know that she was there. But, I think it's definitely a power dynamic around disability. Like, how could these, my words, he never said it, but how could these crippled people do this? And, we were talking to the kids in the neighborhood in the morning that we had our first rally outside his house. We had great flyers. And we were telling the kids, you should talk to him and tell him that he needs to be signing these regulations. We get discriminated against, blah, blah, blah. Now, for me, if someone had a demonstration outside of my house like that, I wouldn't be offended. I would think, oh, that was pretty ballsy.
But you were brave. That's because the first recourse when someone's in power and they're being challenged by people who have less power, they're relying on the norms of conventional society. If they ignore the people who have less power, they're just relying on the fact that you're going to sort of respect the norms of society, because when you get ignored, you have to choose. Am I going to break?
He knew.
No, but I'm saying that you guys going in front of Califano's house broke convention at that time. And that's why the East Coast protesters were upset, and that's why Kitty hid in the truck, right? Because she was embarrassed, because it was breaking convention. And they never, and so then that puts the people who are in power with the choice of, oh no, I don't want them to break convention, but you were willing to make a fuss. You were willing to break convention expectations at the time and just go with it. And that's what ignoring and silence does to you. But you just ignored it, and you were like, forget it. I don't care. I'm going to get in your face. Like,
And that was the whole group's decision. That was the whole group's decision.
But that was the magic.
Yeah.
Right? That you had a whole group of people who took with you and Kitty and, you know, took with you in breaking societal conventions without violence.
At the end of the day, I think his failing to meet with us was really an indication that he didn't have the degree of respect for us that he should have. Because if he had respect for who we were and what we were doing, you know, you can invite people up for a cup of coffee and you can say, like, this made me feel really badly or whatever. But at the end of the day, he had responsibility for implementing the regulations. And so it would have been, even the signing, as you can tell, was done very secretively. There was nothing public about it. And it could have been a public event. You know, I'm not talking about a White House event like ADA, but it could have been a nice little event where, you know, some people were invited to come up to his office and the press would have been there. We'd been shaking hands and, you know, great, blah, blah, blah. Now go for it and implement it. And then we're going to be out there making sure you do. That didn't happen.
He way underestimated